my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that I have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue. We are continuing our run of the New Mutants. We are looking at New Mutants number 50 from 1987, a double-sized issue. So you know what that means. A lot of words. I'm going to do my very best to not make this video as lengthy as it could be. And so the cover is done by Rick Leonardi, and we see Magic. Dan Green is the inker. We see Magic battling the demons, including Sim. Magic loses control of Limbo, the mutants lost in time, the return of Xavier, and all this, and the Starjammers too. So Father's Day is the title of the story, and we are in Limbo, and we see Magic here. And Chris Claremont is narrating everything, letting us know that she has no idea how long she's been fighting, has no meaning, and she probably has been fighting them an eternity. And it says here, once she was absolute ruler here. And so we get Chris Claremont as our writer, Jackson Guice as the penciler, John Beatty guest inker, Orzakowski with Buhalis do the letters, and Nascenti and Jim Shooter continue with the editorial. Rest in peace, Jim Shooter. And so, what's been happening here is one of the demons here, and you can see that they're all here. One of the demons touched her, and now she's infected with the transmode virus, and she doesn't know what's going on here. And so her armor is going through other parts of her body here, and she goes, you, and it turns out it's Sim. And she says, is this rebellion you're doing? And he goes, yup. And she says, why? And he says, Magus made Sim an offer Sim couldn't refuse. To hold the throne Sim has always served. And Eliana says, so he infected you with the techno-organic virus? And he says, yes. And so she's gonna have to run away, basically. And so she uses her powers here, and you know her powers aren't exactly controllable here. So she goes and gets away. So now we are in outer space here, and in some kind of bazaar. And we see Corsair here, and he's with Binary. Binary is going to be Miss Marvel, and then, of course, then turn into Captain Marvel. So this is the future Captain Marvel here. And so they're on a stealthy mission. They have bounties on them because Ileana's been hiding. And then here's Professor X with Lilandra. And a lot of talking, a lot of talking, a lot of talking. He wants to go home. He can't. He sort of, she says, we'll get you there sometime. He thinks about the New Mutants, because this is a New Mutant comic. Not the X-Men, New Mutants. So, as they continue talking, he gets a sense here. So he says, it's impossible. And he says, stay here, Lilandra. I'll be back as quick as I can. And so he runs through and sees a slave auction. And Magic is now being sold here. And so this guy here shoots her unconscious, like stuns her. And he says, what's the starting bid? And Xavier says she's not for sale. I am her patron. Release her. And he says, no one gives me orders on stage. If this babe means so much to you, then you'll join her in my slave line. And so he hits him with this thing, but because of his psychic powers, he's able to overcome it here. So here he punches the guy, and he runs toward Ileana here. But then these Lawbots uh, grab him here. And of course, here comes Binary, again, the future Miss Marvel here, rescuing him. And of course, that guy recognizes the Starjammers here. And he's like, take the kid with my blessing. And I wouldn't have done that if I knew that it was the Starjammers. And then here comes the the robots here. Attention, lawbreakers! You're in multiple violations. Yield or be vaporized. And so Ileana's like, "What's how'd Ileana get here?" And he says, "I haven't the faintest notion." So the Corsair throws the cloak, and they go and sort of teleport back to the ship. Sorry, and we got Chad and oh my goodness gracious. Oh my goodness, I forgot their name. Hepzibah here, and this guy here. So we'll I'm sure his name will come out here. So they're in the ship here, and so Corsair's like, "What the devil were you playing at? That stun of yours may have queered my deal with Haggard, as sure as sin blew our cover." And Ileana says, "Hold your tongue, Corsair. Charles had good reason." And so, of course, he sees Ileana here, and Corsair, before he notices Ileana, he tells Lilandra that she's not the Empress anymore, so don't bark orders. Anyway, so Xavier says, "Hey, she needs medical attention here," so Sarkowski takes her there, and let's see here. Anyway, they hope that the Imperial fleet doesn't hear or respond to what just happened, but there's certain bounty hunters will. And so Ileana does come to. She's confused as to where she's at. Xavier tries to get her calmed down, says, "Do you see me?" And then she's so happy to see him here. And this, although is because this thing is loose and it's moving, it does look like she's being stabbed somehow, but that's how I look at it. And so she's extremely happy to see each other here. All right, and look, this is what I mean. Chris Claremont, if I were to read this the way I normally read comic books, we'd be here all day, especially on a 40-page issue. So this first part, she's talking about how hungry she's been and hasn't had good food, and that she's really glad that Professor X is fine. Let's see here. Corsair says that, oh my goodness gracious, there's just so much. She tells him that he's granddad, and that Cyclops and Madeline had a baby boy. Of course, she doesn't know that all the other stuff that has happened from them. And so, by the way, I covered an issue where Chris Claremont kind of went back, and it was very clear that Chris Claremont had forgotten a lot of this stuff because Corsair was there, and we all know Corsair wasn't there. So anyway, and so Magneto, sorry, Professor Xavier asks how Magneto is coping with his new responsibility, how everything, how all well at home. Sorry about that, and I say Magneto, not Magneto. And she says no. She tells him about the Marauders attacking the Morlocks, and so the Marauders had killed them. And when the X-Men tried to help, they got cut into pieces too. And so I have already covered that. I have a New Mutants playlist. I have an X-Men playlist. I have an X-Factor playlist. I have a Wolverine playlist. Go, feel free to check those out. And so She lets him. So we're getting a recap that Magneto said, stay at the mansion. But then, so they're just telling all stuff that we have covered before. So feel free also to check out that website here. So we're just gonna kind of move on here. They were attacked by Magus. Everybody's kind of in different places. So everybody's scattered. And now everyone in Limbo was trying to fight her. And so she just says, uh, "I'll be brave. I'm ashamed. I'm sorry." So she feels like it's her fault that all these things have happened. Of course, it is not. Oh my goodness, I'm only on page 14 of 40, and I am trying to skip this as quick as I can here. One of the things that we have here is that Xavier discovers he can read her mind. Her demonic blocks are gone, so he was able to take everything he needed from her. And so she asks, is he free from Belasco's influence? And Xavier says, I wish, but probably not. He says that her soul's kind of split in half, and so she's got the normal girl, but then the wild one is still out there. And so Elena comments about how nice it is sort of to be, but weird without her demonic self. And she feels empty, more dead than alive. So it's probably not as good as she probably thought it was going to be. So Xavier's going to go and help Eliana kind of control her power, and they're going to try to rescue the New Mutants. And so Corsair says that may not be a good idea, but, what can they do? So, at the same time, it looks like, is Binary going with them? It looks like Binary is going in there. So, anyway, as soon as they leave, there's this sound, and he's like, something hit the hull. And we see that, the planet here, it says, according to the census, the planet is being torn apart. And so we're back in Limbo. So it looks like Lilandra also went, but Limbo is like all nice here, and they're like thinking how weird, because they expected it to be a little bit more menacing. And so here's Sim here saying Limbo belongs to Sim, and through Sim, the Lord Magus. So Sim is always, someone's always his boss here. So Binary now attacks Sim here, but Sim is very power hungry. He's like, I can destroy you all with the slightest touch. Eliana says no, grabs the soul sword, and she says, not while magic has the strength and power of life. So she's back to what she was before. And you can see here she cuts Sim in half, but because he's techno-organic, that doesn't it doesn't kill him here. He reassembles himself here, and he has pretty much the same powers as Warlock, so he's able to transform into other things. She says this realm is hers and will be forever hers. And so she thinks, Lilandra thinks that magic's going to abandon them, but she's not. She's going to help find the New Mutants and then afterwards deal with Sim. And so we're in the world of the future. As I mentioned, I have a playlist, and we've got Cannonball and Cypher, we have Warlock, and we have Mirage here. So let's see what's going on here. So they're living in a world that the mutants rule instead of the humans. And we have Magma, and we have an older Magma and an older Sunspot here, and they're gonna brainwash them, if you remember. in that previous, um, because they don't want they're too goody goody, and Sunspot doesn't want them to do the world order. You can see the Hellfire Club is the rulers of this world, at least of New York. We don't know whether it's the world or not, but we assume that it is. And so they're going to get re educated and they're going to talk a lot about it. But now Eliana shows up here with them here. And Xavier kind of scolds his older students here. So Xavier's like, hey, I thought I taught you better. He's like, we were killed, I'm exterminated, and so we have to fight for survival. And he says, I think we've done pretty well. And Xavier says, I know. An honest belief that is clear in your thoughts, and therein lies your tragedy and this future. Farewell. So he's not exactly happy with how things went in the future. So now in back to New York, but a different New York here. And now we find this is the other future where the humans were in control. The days of futures past, and so we've got Karma, Sunspot, Wolfsbane, and Magma here, kind of fighting the Sentinels. But of course, here come our heroes to take them out here. And oh my goodness, it's just so much. There's so many words in this. Chris Claremont just and Chris Claremont's one of my most favorite writers, but boy oh boy is he wordy. Anyway, Sunspot is happy that they were found here, and everybody goes to see Professor Xavier here. And of course, Mirage isn't sure if it really is. And so, will Bobby and Amara grow up to become the dictators of a society that treats a chunk of its people like slaves? That's why I do anything to prevent that. And then, so that's her thoughts. But then, of course, Sunspot is like, why is Danny staring at me? So in this era, she and Sam were the sole survivors of Professor Xavier's school. So, two different futures, basically, is what we have here. So, all right, so now Magic's going to teleport them, and we land back in the Starjammer's ship. But they go, my gosh, it looks like it is burning. And here is Magus. And so we are basically, Chris Claremont is kind of finishing up all his stories sort of all at once into this big issue. So now the New Mutants are going to be dealing with a Magus here. So as you remember, Magus and Warlock are from a society where either the son kills the father or the father kills the son. And Warlock is a bit of a coward here. So Warlock decides, I cannot, everything that's happening is his fault, he says. So he's going to give himself up and have Magus kill him. And Cypher's like, you can't give up. And Warlock is like, it's the only logical response. And he's like, nope, we either beat him together or we're all dead with you. And Warlock asks Xavier what he should do. And he says, this war here, it's responsible for this planet's destruction. It is what must be changed. But that, I fear, is something only you can accomplish. And Magus is like, I am tired of waiting for you, Bioforms. Perhaps you and my son require further persuasion. You can see how badass he is. And so he's going to try and get them all with this transmode virus here. And so you can see his tentacles are being engulfed here. And so Xavier's going to start barking orders here. And so he tells Magma to go through the openings in the hull with the planet's surface and probably use her power of volcanoes and soar is most likely what's going to happen. And so she does exactly that. And Here you can see that a big crater kind of opens and pins Magus there. And Xavier says, "Magic, your turn. Teleport to the bottom of the sea." And so she does that. She also would be crushed, says, the pressure. But I'll only be here a second. That's about all you need. And so she is going to teleport part of Magus here, which of course hurts him here and drops them. And so Cannonball takes Magma out of um, out of harm's way here, and so everyone is going to start battling him here. So Magma says to put her back. Her power is the only thing that can keep the planetary core cable and the world intact. And he says, "You can do that." She says, "I must." And so Xavier says, "Cannonball, such a feat is within Magma's potential capabilities." He says she's not strong enough. And Xavier says, "She will be once I augment her own power with my own as a psychic supercharger. I shall closely monitor your performance, Magma, to ensure optimum results." So, all right, so he puts her back, and she says, um, that to live is to risk being hurt, sweet friend, and all things die. Why not at a moment of one's own choosing, fighting for a noble cause? So everybody was ready to give up here, and Xavier's like, no one here is gonna die. And of course, we got our hothead in a sunspot. He says, "I feel so useless, Professor, so helpless. What good is the strength to knock down walls against a foe who can tear apart planets?" And Xavier says, "Not everyone in a team is essential to the resolution of every conflict, lad. You've done your part in the past, and no doubt will again. For the present, Roberto, practice patience, hard though that may be." And he says, "I shall try." And he thinks here, "You speak as my father should, as my real father almost never does, though I would give my soul to have him do so." So he likes a stern father. And so here goes Warlock, and he's like, "Self will no longer allow friends to fight for him." And so here we go. And so Warlock says, if a fight to the death is what you want, then that's what you're gonna get. And so we get this really cool splash page here. And so, but Magus is so strong here, and he takes him down. So, and he's almost dead here. And so Cypher says he can't die. There has to be an answer. I don't care how powerful Magus seems. He has to have an invulnerability spot. And Xavier says, "Think, Douglas, about who and what our foe is. Therein lies the key to your answer." And then, of course, he's like, "Give me a break. We're staring worse. We're staring worse than death in the face, and the press making like we're in a class." And he's like, "Wait a minute." He says, I've got an idea." And so he says, "It's wild and crazy and risky as can be, but what have we got to lose?" And of course, he's like, Xavier says, "More than you suspect, but I can see no better hope. Good luck, Cypher. Mirage, your power will strike the first blow on my signal by confronting Magus with his greatest terror. We tried that stunt before," she says, "but his strength was way out of my league. He bested that illusion instantly." And Xavier says, "Trust me, child. I shall be standing with you, augmenting your powers as I did with Magma." So, all right. So here comes Cypher here, and goes to Warlock, and he's gonna try to jumpstart him. And Warlock says, "I don't want to. Just let me die." And so Binary is gonna do it too. It's like, "No, we're not doing that." And so Warlock is back at optimal. And so here comes Magus. He is just friggin' badass here. And Magus trying to hold the planet. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't keep doing this here." And so Warlock not dead, confronting me, still more powerful than ever. How can this be? And so, of course, it is Mirage here. And so, Xavier says, try to possess Magus. And he's like, it's impossible. Um, and then she goes, I have done it. And so, here comes Douglas with, or Cypher and Warlock here that are called Douglock here. So, and you can see they hang on into Magus here. But while so we get kind of oh my gosh, I'll just read it because it's probably faster here. The mathematical formulation of what makes Dad tick. All I have to do is make sense of it instantly. But that's what Cypher does, right? Translate languages. And math is the ultimate primal language. There's so much, though. It's so complex. Hang in there, Karma. Please, I need time to puzzle this. But she can't hold them anymore. And Magus is free. And now he's shooting at Douglock here and sends other, like, antibodies at them. It's kind of funny and weird. But anyway, Cypher, or Sunspot arrives and he's gonna fight them because he's been waiting to be able to do something. And so everybody keeps distracting him, and so now it's Cypher's turn. And basically, what we get the explanation: all life is based on a genetic code, and Magus is like Warlock's, and Warlock is a part of me. The key the professor spoke of is knowing myself. Only one chance. Gotta hit hard. Past punch slip past Magus's defenses before he realizes what I'm up to and sets up a counter. And then we see here, bingo. And he yells out, no. Make her fry your circuits, Bioform. What have you and Warlock done? And so it looks, Cypher, or I'm sorry, Binary says, it looks like we did it. And so takes Douglock away here, and that is the friggin' end of Magus, it looks like. So they did it here, and they finally beat it. So this issue really dealt with everything. We had to get the New Mutants back together, and we had to end Magus because Chris Claremont is done in 4 issues, and that's weird. And then he does a limited series that he did about 10-15 years ago called New Mutants Forever, which takes place after issue 54, which we will also cover. So we're almost done with our coverage of New Mutants, because once I'm done with that, I won't be jumping back till Rob Liefeld comes, because Louis Simonson is a great and fantastic writer, but it just didn't do very well. And not many people have that many fond memories of New Mutants. So once Chris Claremont is done, we're going to be done until the Rob Liefeld era comes. So we're going to skip about 25 issues or so. All right. So you can see that Magus has exploded. Here comes Doug and Cypher here. Everyone is kind of happy. And they wonder if they killed him, and he doesn't know if he can be killed. He, oh my gosh, names. Corsair asks, what did you do then? He says, essentially, it was a problem in software engineering. Magus is a metamorph, like Warlock. Both can change their shape and to virtually unlimited extent. What we had to do was tap into the primary genetic code that controlled that ability. Once I broke it, I could define the very nature of his reality. So I wrote a regression program into his core matrices that bounced him back to the Tachnarch Royal Crate as a baby. It'll probably be a while before he grows up enough to be any sort of pain. And by then, we'll have grown up Warlock plus the Mutants to keep him in line. So that's essentially what they do here, and Warlock is thankful for Xavier, and you can see that the two embrace, and Xavier is like, the honor was mine. So, and that concludes the issue. So, pretty lengthy issue, but I think I did pretty well in time. It only took 30 minutes on what probably would have taken an hour if I read all through it. So, New Mutants number 50 by Chris Claremont with Jackson Guice and John Beatty in the inks. Like and subscribe. I do thank you so much for listening. This issue, it was a little baha for me, but because I'm trying to cover everything, not everything that I cover sometimes is, I don't know. I'm not always interested in it, but for the sake of completion, I am completing everything. And so here we go. See you later. Bye bye.